Ladies and gentlemen, this is your final boarding call for the good ship SS tomorrow.
Today on The Friendly Futurist, a great case study for technology for good. And welcome back. And today's guest is Sophie Thompson. She's the founder and CEO of Virtual Speech over in London in the United Kingdom. This is great because this is virtual reality designed for those who may be shy on stage, maybe have overcome the fear of public speaking, maybe even help those who are verbally challenged. Now, for long-time listeners of my show, you might have to go back to about Season 1, Episode 3, when we had a similar Tech for Good story about non-verbal people and advisors. That's a really clever, that's really a uplifting story. Now, we've got all this tech and this downside, the negative tech, but you know what? Technology is just a tool. And I tell my students this all the time. It's just a tool. Like a kitchen knife is a tool. A kitchen knife can be a murder weapon. A kitchen knife can make you lunch. It's the person behind and the intentions behind the tool that applies morals of good or evil. Okay? But this is tech for good. This is helping us. This is advancing the human civilization in better ways. And look, sometimes when you consume a lot of doom and gloom in the press, and all you read is doom and gloom, you're going to feel very negative. This show is trying to flip the coin and make it feel very positive. Sophie is coming up after the break. And welcome back to another episode. And I really love this particular project. And we've got Sophie Thompson from London, and she's the CEO of Virtual Speech. And I really love it because it's tech for good. And I know we talk about everything about AI might take away our jobs and stuff like that. No, let's use it for the betterment of people who might actually need this technology to give it a lift. And you might remember way back in about Series 1, Episode 2, when we had the visors for the people who are non-vocal. Sorry, I just felt non-vocal myself. That's a podcast host. But anyhow, Sophie, welcome. And as with all my guests, can you please just give us a quick rundown about your journey so far? Start wherever you want to start.
Sure. Yes. Thanks for having me, Dave. So I started out in the virtual reality technology space back in 2015. And my journey in this space was entirely by accident. So we started off as the first virtual reality app to overcome the fear of public speaking, because of our own fears of public speaking. And for me, that was actually severe social anxiety. So I couldn't even talk to waiters and waitresses in restaurants. I was just too nervous. I couldn't order my own coffee in Starbucks because I was too scared of even that one-to-one interaction. And my friend Dom came up with the idea that virtual reality could provide that psychologically safe place to practice social skills and communication skills more generally, so that I could build up my confidence in virtual reality and then get to a place where I could then transfer that confidence across into the real world. And so that's how Virtual Speech was born. And so now we are a platform that offers a range of courses that are all focused on communication skills, whether that's presentations, interviews, sales, difficult conversations, leadership topics, active listening, those kinds of subjects. And a crucial element of all of that is the ability to practice whenever you want. And so that you can build up your confidence in your skills, you can get feedback so that you feel more confident. And that's all powered by virtual reality and artificial intelligence to provide that free-flowing feedback.
Interesting stuff. So let's get really nerdy here, Sophie. How exactly does virtual speech work?
Yeah, so If I take the example of public speaking, because I think that's the one that probably most people can relate to, the idea is that people learn key theory and techniques outside of VR. So we have online learning courses, or you can use your own learning if you like if you're a student. And then we use virtual reality to practice skills. So for something like public speaking, you can put on a VR headset and be immersed in environments with audiences of different sizes. You could be in a meeting room. You could be in a cafe situation where it's just one-on-one. You can be in a conference room. You can be in a TEDx-styled theatre. And each one of these, you can do things like upload your own slides and notes to be in VR with you, so it's as realistic as possible. You then deliver your presentation, and the audience, who are avatars, will be listening to your presentation, and they will ask you questions based on exactly what you've said, so that then you can practice for the Q&A that you are likely to have after presentations as well. And then you also receive feedback at the end, and that feedback is on both delivery and content. So from the delivery side, that's things like pace, volume, eye contact, how many ums and ahs you've said, listenability, which is about the length of words and using jargon, but then also on the actual content of what you've said. So whether your presentation came across as confident or persuasive, or more specific things that you could do so your message lands better. And then in things like, if you have the difficult conversations module, your feedback might be along the lines of, you did a good job at X, but you didn't show enough empathy, for example, and this is how you could show empathy in this situation. And then you can just go back and repeat it using that feedback, so you can instantly build up your skills before you then have to do these things in the real world.
Interesting. And how's the market taken to your product so far?
I mean, the first few years were slow because, I mean, it was originally only available in virtual reality. And I mean, we started at the end of 2015. So now a lot of people have heard of VR, but 2015, nobody had. I mean, I hadn't before my friend told me about it either. But we did have, within 6 months of launching virtual speech, we had 100,000 downloads, which back at that time, I don't know where those people came from. That was probably the whole population who were even using VR at the time. And that's when we thought, oh, actually, maybe we could make a real go of this. And rather than just being some nerdy fun, perhaps we can turn this into a business and help more people. And yeah, I mean, over that time, the industry itself has grown. Things like headset prices have come down. Like back then, most headsets were about £3,000. Sorry, I don't know what that is in AUD.
It's about £6,000.
But a lot of money.
Yeah.
And now, for example, you can get a headset for £300, which obviously doesn't open it up to absolutely everybody, but it opens it up to a lot more people than it did before. And now we've worked with over 250 organizations, ranging from, obviously we have individual users as well, but we also work with lots of universities in their careers departments, and then lots of Fortune 500 companies in their learning and development departments, making training more fun and focus more on active learning and actually practicing something that will be applicable to your day-to-day job.
Of course, when we come to think about VR, we also think about the Metaverse. What's your thoughts on how you can make a contribution to the Metaverse project?
I would say back in, I think, was it 2020 or 2021 when Metaverse was the latest buzzword of the time. I mean, we certainly saw an increase in demand then, which has tailed off now, but I think actually for the best, because I think there was a lot of misconceptions about what the Metaverse is, what the Metaverse can do. Lots of companies just wanting to jump on the bandwagon without any real thought to what they could actually use it for and how it was actually useful. They just wanted a bit of a marketing showcase. Whereas we want to use things like virtual reality, mixed reality, augmented reality, kind of technologies within that sphere for good, and to actually help people and only use them where it's best placed to use them. So, for example, I'm not somebody who will say that we should all do our socializing in VR, for example, because I personally don't think that that is necessarily a better way for most people. I can see where it has its uses, but I wouldn't want that to ever replace that. Whereas things like practicing for a presentation or practicing a difficult conversation, practicing an interview, VR is perfect for simulating those scenarios and therefore simulating that emotional response to them, which is so key to being successful in them.
Fantastic. And I heard you got some other projects. Tell us about the work Dom's doing with, say, Land Rover.
Yeah, so when we first started, Dom was working at Jaguar Land Rover I refer to it as their VR department. I don't think it actually was, but they were doing a lot of work with VR and like 3D visualization. And that was back in 2015. I don't know what they do now. And he left in 2016 when we started focusing on virtual speech. But that goes to show that VR isn't as new a technology as people think it is. Obviously, I'm talking about 2015, which is 9 years ago, but actually it was around way before then as well. But for big companies to have been using it back in 2015 shows that this isn't something that has just happened overnight or since people heard about the Metaverse, for example. This isn't something that's only been around for a couple of years.
Fantastic. Now, as this podcast is about the future, how do you see the space develop, say, the next 5-10 years?
Oh, that's a big question. I think that we will probably start to see, since generative AI has exploded into all of our lives and we've obviously integrated it into virtual speech for a lot of those feedback mechanisms and conversations, I think the next step will be being able to use things like generative AI to just instantly create different environments, like speech to 3D, if you like. So obviously we have speech to text and text to speech. But if, for example, if you just say, I want to present in a room of X size with X number of people, and then I think that there will be a point where AI can then just generate that environment instantly, which I think would be brilliant, would mean that people could catch up with us quite quickly in terms of the environments we've spent hours building over the last 9 years. But I think that would be very helpful for people. And then I also just think generative AI in general will just evolve everything that we all do, but especially in this kind of space. I think I see them as sister technologies, Gen AI and VR, MR, spatial computing, I guess is the new phrase for it. But I see them very much working alongside each other and intertwined with each other.
Because I guess, I don't know if you've seen it, like Jensen Huang from NVIDIA has vetted like a little toy Jensen. There's like an avatar that can talk back to you. I guess that's sort of where we're directly heading. Yeah.
So I haven't seen that one, but I've seen Reid Hoffman, founder of LinkedIn, do the same thing. And ultimately, you can almost have a bit of like a personal coach in your pocket. So, that's what we're doing with virtual speech. And that coach is focused on communication skills. But you could almost just have a personal like teacher around with you. And when it extends to things like education, I do think that we will start to see education open up more. And by that, I mean, if you can meet people in VR or the Metaverse and have like a Stanford lecturer there providing education, anybody from anywhere in the world can attend that course or that module because of that sort of thing and feel like they're genuinely there. I think that could help democratize education so that, for example, if you can't afford to go and move to California and go to Stanford or one of the very elite business schools, that actually you can still have access to those things and have that sense of presence and community that you don't necessarily have over something like Zoom.
Absolutely. I have a day job. I actually am a university lecturer, and I do envision that, I could be living, don't even have to live in the city. I could live in somewhere rural and, have a very good life around me, but then present. I also like to think too that it's not just present. AI can catch up and I can actually, speak in other languages and, I might have a multinational class like I do now. And I don't have to come here. They don't have to sit the IELTS exam and learn English. I can speak in English, but then AI can immediately translate into their language. I think that'd be quite revolutionary.
Yeah, exactly. And then that can bring what you have to teach people to hundreds of other countries.
Yeah. Now, is there anything I didn't ask but should?
Oh my gosh, is that? I think one thing I would say is that because the industry is growing, there are more people now coming into the space. And I would say that for anyone listening, whether it's an individual, university, company, to always kind of reference those people. So always ask to speak to like previous customers, for example, because there are a handful of new players, and I assume that will only increase as the industry gets bigger, who think this is a way to make a quick buck, and it's not actually like focused on a solution. It's not around, say, like human-centered design, which I think is very important. And that, again, I would hone in on, like, don't just look at VR as a shiny tech and then see where you could use it, work the other way around, so that if you've got a problem, then see if VR could be that solution, rather than just thinking, oh, how can we use VR? Maybe we can force it in this way. Because you also want to make sure that if you're going to make that investment into something like VR, that actually there's a real return on investment for it and real motivation for the people who will actually be using it to use it.
Yeah, I guess that's true, man. And of day, it's a tool like anything else, but you got to see the value. You can't just, see the shiny toy. Yeah. That's a really valid point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, now that the cost has come down, and I think most people are familiar with VR because they're like, oh, my child or my niece, my nephew uses VR and they play this game called Beat Saber or something. And I think in that respect, it can sometimes just be seen as this very much novelty fad toy, if you like, that is for the kids, basically. But there are so many wider applications. Obviously, I'm coming at it from an education and training point of view, but there's so many different applications. Like, you can use it for like real estate, so you can look around a house in VR rather than having to travel 2 hours to go and look around that house, for example. Obviously, you would still want to if you wanted to make an offer and so on, but that first viewing, you could just do that in VR first and get a sense of things if you then want to. So it can be used to help us be more efficient, effectively. Yeah. But yeah, there's, like, if you Google it, there are so many more use cases than just for gaming.
Yes, too. You can save money and save the planet, cut down on carbon.
Yeah.
Go on an instant 100%. Holiday. I guess that'd be another good idea. Well, I guess it's already happening.
Yeah, exactly. I remember in the pandemic, I can't remember the name of the app now, but somebody had done like 360 recordings of like major cities. I know London was one of them, Budapest was another, Venice. And so then people could put on a VR headset and they'd be transported into these cities and they'd learn all about the culture. So again, it wasn't just like, oh, look at me, I'm in my living room, but I'm actually in Budapest. It's actually like learning about the culture of it and everything that goes with visiting a country, not just, oh, let's have a drink in Budapest.
We can drink in Budapest, cheap Hungarian beer, yeah. So come join us a quick little chat this afternoon. Before we go, where else can we find you?
So Virtual Speech's website is virtualspeech.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. If you just search Sophie Thompson, Virtual Speech, all one word, then I'll come up.
Fantastic. I'll make sure those are in the show notes. Sophie, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure chatting to you this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Dave.
You're welcome. And thank you to Sophie for her input. The Friendly Futurist is a podcast West production. It's produced and edited by me, Dave Munt. If you love this show, please give us a 5-star review on your favourite platform. Until next time, friends, remember to stay curious, and the future is user-friendly.
Another Podcasts West production.
This podcast is just for educational purposes and it's not financial advice. I'm not a financial planner or advisor. Please do your homework and seek professional help before you take on any adventures.